Hey everybody, it's Angelo from Angelo's Workbench. What could be better than building the 1968 Pontiac Firebird 400? I will tell you coming up. I got my Firebird 400 from over at Hobbynut Models. Make sure you follow that link in my description. Go on over there. He's got kits, paints, all kinds of great stuff. Make sure you support Hobbynut Models. Following the link in my description supports Angelo's Workbench as well. So the new Revell 1968 Pontiac Firebird 400, I say new, we know it is a repop, but it's just out. It is a wonderful kit. I did a review on this not too long ago. Check the description out. I'll have a link to it down there. I will also have a link to Hobbynut Models, which is where I bought this kit from. Fantastic place. Lots of good kits, lots of good paints. There's a link down in the description to go to Hobbynut Models and do some shopping. If you use that link, you're supporting Hobbynut Models and Angelo's Workbench. So what could be better than building the Pontiac Firebird 400? Well, the answer to that is building two Pontiac Firebird 400s. We are going to build them both. As I said in my review, I had a real hard time picking between this and this. And that's the beautiful thing of model building. You know, if you can't decide which way to go, hey, they'll make more. You know, get two of them, build them both side by side. Then you can experiment with it. So this one, I am going to build stock. And so pretty much this top looking one. And to be honest, this color has captured my imagination. I'm going to research and look through the stock 1968 Firebird 400 colors that were around that year. And going to check that out and see if I can pick a color. And we'll go from there. The other one, which, I mean, who knows which one? It's going to be one or the other. The other one I'm going to build this way. And the box art has again captured my imagination, except I saw recently, I was driving across the country, and I stopped at one of the truck stops. Actually, I stopped at a lot of the truck stops. But at one of the truck stops, there were some die casts. They have, like, some of the Love's truck stops, I think, have these little die cast sections. And they had this really cool Camaro. I think it was a 69. And it was a two-tone silver with a candy apple red. And I thought that that was amazing. And I believe it was reversed. I think the candy apple red was on top and the silver was on the bottom. But I don't know. But I'm thinking a two-tone metallic silver and candy apple red. I can get out some of my acrylic paints and do some custom mixing and go from there. But it's definitely going to have kind of a custom paint job to go along. I do want to use those decals. I think those decals are awesome. And I'm going to build it basically just like this. We're going to go with the big blown motor. And we'll do the interior setup for a drag car. And I do like the red letters. The red lines on the chrome wheels there. So this really looks the part. I even like the tinting of the lights, the inside lights. I think that's really cool. And I want to integrate that into mine because I really like that idea. So I'm going to do some research on colors. And we're going to get these bodies prepped and ready for the paint booth. And paints selected, colors picked. Again, I do really like that green. But I'm going to look through the stock colors and take a look. And so stick around. We are building two Firebird 400s coming up right now. Working on the Firebird 400. Looking at the tail section here, the left side tail lights are just a little bit wonky. It was like this on both kits, so I'm going to assuming it's a manufacturing thing. So what I did was I just cut a little piece of sandpaper so that I could get in there and straighten them out. Some of it, I think it was a combination of some flash and the mold was just a little bit wonky. The other thing that I've noticed is on both hoods, there is a little piece, little gap in the corner on that. Now, it's less pronounced on the drag hood, but it is still there. Very slight. I don't know if it's with the body or the hood. On the stock one, it appears to be the hood, because if you look closely at the hood, like, there's a little, like, flat piece. And that isn't where it was mounted to the sprue or anything along those lines. So it's not a case of, hey, you know, when I was sanding it, it came off. And the ends are flush, so it's not a case of this is misshapen. So what I've got to do is I've got to think of a way to add in just a little bit. And I think I might be able to use the other drag hood. The hoods are attached on the side, as you can see here. So I think what I'll do is maybe I can just build that up with a ever so slight amount of putty. Or maybe I can just cut off a little piece of sprue, glue it there, sand it, and cut it to shape. And that will be that. So I'm going to see if I can figure that out. Or maybe I just leave it be. But it is a very pronounced gap. And it draws my eye to it every time. So I think I have to do something. So I'm going to see if I can come up with a very easy solution to put the ever so slightest, little tiniest piece of plastic into there and get that squared away. I also think, after reviewing the instructions, they do have you mount the chassis before you glue these back ends on. But I'm going to take a chance, because I do not want to glue these on after paint and clear, because they're a pain. I really want to glue these now. So looking at the body and looking at how the interior goes in, I think that I can fit it in and wedge it and be okay. So I'm going to glue these first. We'll see if it bites me later. So these guys are going through sanding and prep, and then they're going to go get washed with the Dawn dishwashing detergent, and then we're going to the booth for our paint jobs. So on this hood, what I have done is I have cut a little piece of sprue number, we'll call it, the little piece that goes right there that's on the sprue that has the number, and I cut a little tiny triangle off it and I glued it on there. And I used my Tamiya Extra Thin. So now it's curing. I'm going to let it cure thoroughly. And then what I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to go in with a snipper and just snip it to shape. And that'll leave me the little tiny extra bit in the corner that I needed. And then I'll sand it, prime it, paint it, and you shouldn't be able to even tell. And it is the finest little sliver of plastic that I'm going to leave there, but it will fill that hole. So back to work we go. So I have that piece of plastic that I put in there dried, and I did a little snip with my nippers to cut it to shape. Then I sanded the edges nice and smooth, and I now have a hood that fits without and I got a little bit of rock back and forth because I've been sanding the hood. You always want that little bit of rock back and forth because you want to have room for your paint and clear coat. Primer, paint, and clear coat. You're putting a lot of layers on when you do a body, so you need to have room. If it fits as snug as this did out of the box, when you paint and do your clear coat, then your hood won't fit, it won't close. So you always want to have that little bit of wiggle. But now I have wiggle, and I don't have a big, huge gap in the corner. So that was nice. Very small, little tiny modification to make that look a little better. So now we are going to glue these backs on. I'll do one for the camera, and then the other one I can do off camera. So let's do the drag car here. And I'm taking a little bit of a chance with this, I know, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of line these up so that I can go from the inside with the Tamiya Extra Thin. They don't want to stay. They once you put them in place, they want to pop out constantly. So they don't stay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on the Tamiya Extra Thin to kind of hold them in place. But to do that, I first have to get them in place a little bit. There, I got the one side glued. So let's see how that did. Well, it's starting to hold a little bit. And I think it's just because it's such a tight fit. Oh, there it goes. This is going to be difficult, especially with the camera in my face. So let's see here. I'm going to get this side. And it's nice gluing these now because if you do make a slight mess on the body, then you don't have to really worry about it. Like I just got a little fingerprint there. But I haven't done primer, paint, or sand yet, so I can do that after I finish the gluing. Okay, so there we have it. It has taken hold, And you can see I got some glue goobers right there, but that's no big deal. We're going to let it dry thoroughly, and then I'll sand it and prime it and paint it, and everything will be fine. But if you were trying to do this after you had done the paint, the primer, and the clear coat, you'd be fighting with this and maybe making a mess all over your beautifully painted and cleared body. So now is the time for me. I try to glue as many things as possible as I can before I go to paint and clear. So I'm going to glue this other one on, and we're going to move forward. So we're getting ready to shoot some primer here. I'm using my Stynal Res, which I like. I buy this in bulk on the internet. This is a gray primer. And I have gone through and I have scribed the panel lines a little bit, deepened them just slightly. They were a little bit vague on the body. So, and then I've also given this a light sanding with 600 grit, as well as bathed it in Dawn dishwashing detergent to remove any mold release agents and such. And so now I've got my Iwata HPCS here with a 0.5 millimeter tip, shooting about 25 psi. And I'm just going to go with a light coat, nothing crazy. And I've got the hood scoop on there glued on already for the stock one. And I just like to hit them from all the different angles. I'm just going to get the back sides as well. Oh, I saw a little mold release on there that I missed. Oh, excuse me, not mold release. Injector pin mark. That's what the word I'm looking for. Go. So there's a little light coat on the hood, and we'll let them, the hoods, I should say plural, so we'll let them go ahead and cure. And then, I forget which one this is. I'm going to have to label them so I can keep them straight until I get some color on them. But in the primer stage, it doesn't really matter because they're both getting gray primer. Whether this is the green one or the silver red one, I'm still using gray primer. If it was a lighter color, like maybe a bright red or a yellow, I might be inclined to use a white primer. But for these colors, I'm going gray. And I'm just getting all the easy to miss spots first, all the edges. And then we'll just go right down the side with a nice big hit. That's especially important when doing metal flakes. You can't do panel by panel with metal flakes. You just go right down the whole side. Oh, looks very good. I'm just periodically checking my paint cup for how much is in there. There we go. We can let that all cure. And I usually end up doing a little bit of a sand in between coats. I'll let it cure fully, and then I'll go in with like a light sand. And then if I reveal any white plastic through the primer, I'll go ahead and give it another coat. I usually end up doing 2 to 3 coats of primer. I like to just make sure that it's all nice and smooth and even before I go to my color coat. If you have any layers that are uneven, as you build upon them with more layers, it just gets worse and worse. You know, if you have a little tiny build in one section on your primer, then when you put your color coat on, it's a little bit higher, and then your clear coat, it's a little bit higher. So keeping everything sanded smoothly as you go just means that everything stays smooth and everything stays even, and then your finish coat is wonderful. And you won't end up having to do a whole ton of wet sanding and polishing, because that's no fun. Ideally, if you can keep everything nice and smooth, your last coat of clear should be a full wet coat, and it should be able to cure smooth enough to where just some polishing gives you a really nice finish. At least it's my experience anyway. And it also depends on the kind of finish you're looking for. If you're looking for a showroom, factory finish, that can be easily achieved. If you're looking for a, a show car perfect, absolutely finish, then you're looking for, some wet sanding and polishing. And I do have some business going on here in this trunk. This is definitely going to take some sanding. So right off the bat, I'm done putting paint on this. It appears that there was maybe some water in that line that didn't come out when I let it dry, and now it has sprayed all across, and that's no problem. That's easy to fix. Once this fully cures, I will sand that, dry sand it, and I also have a fisheye right there, a pretty good one. So I will let this cure pretty much the way it is right now. I do want to get right there, just under the hood area of the front end. So I'm going to let that cure and then do a little bit of sanding and come in with another coat of primer after. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's video on the Firebird 400s. Come on back next week. We'll figure out that primer, get some color coat going. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. In my description is a link to Hobbynut Models, which would support Hobbynut Models and Angelo's Workbench. We appreciate that. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all is Angelo's Workbench. I look forward to seeing you all next week.